Today's video is gonna be a bit longer than usually, but it will be worth it because I'm gonna give you 9 steps that will take you from thinking about getting a trade license in the Czech Republic to actually having everything set up and being ready to start your business. Because there are a lot of things you need to do. And there are some new things that were not there just a year ago or a couple months ago. So I will take you through everything in a detailed guide. Also, if you want to read more about each of the points and go deeper into the topics and know more about invoicing and taxes, all these kind of stuff, go to the article I have already put into the description, because we've written a long ass article about this topic, and we'll be actually adding more subtopics to it in the upcoming days. So go there and read more about that. But let's go now through the 9 steps to get the trade license. So step number 1, that's obviously to make sure that you are even eligible for the trade license. Because there are some requirements you need to meet to be able to get the trade license in general, and then there are some requirements you need to meet which are dependent on your situation. So the general requirements are pretty simple and straightforward. You must be 18 years old and you cannot have any, I don't want to say disability because I don't know a better word. You cannot be you must be fit for get the trade license, let's say. Let's put it this way. So simple rules like that. And then there are some requirements from that depend on your situation. But generally speaking, if you're an EU citizen, you can get the trade license anytime. And if you're a non-EU citizen, you can get it as long as you have some valid long-term visa or long-term residence permit or permanent residence permit. So basically anyone with a long-term visa or long-term residence permit can get the trade license. Doesn't matter if you're a student, if you're a family reunification, if you have the job seeker residence permit, if you have employee card, blue card, permanent residency, does not matter as long as it is valid and it was issued for more than 90 days, you can get the trade license. So first step, make sure you're eligible. Second, get all the required documents together. And the documents depend also on your nationality and the situation, what kind of trade license you want to get, but generally they go like this. Passport or national ID if you're an EU citizen. If you're a non-EU citizen, you always must have a passport. But if you are an EU citizen, you can also use your local ID because you don't necessarily need to have a passport to live in the Czech Republic as an EU citizen. And if you're a non-EU citizen, you also must have, as I mentioned before, a valid long-term visa or long-term residence permit or permanent residence permit. Then you always need a business address. It can either be a place which you own, or it could potentially be a place which you rent in as long as the landlord is fine with that and they will sign a consent. Or you can get a virtual address, which we can, for example, also provide in Move to Prague. And that basically means that you have a mailbox somewhere in a property. In our case, it's in a property we own, and you have your business name on the building or in the building, and you have your name on the mailbox. So if you receive any letters, we will let you know, it's delivered to you, and we can provide it very swiftly. So if your landlords do not agree with you using the apartment address as your business address, or if they take a long time to prepare the consent, you can always use the virtual address. Third, you need to choose the trades. Ideally, choose some of the unqualified trades because that will make getting the trade license easier. If you choose some of the qualified trades like craft trades or some others, those might be very difficult for you to get as a foreigner. Even as an EU citizen, your education might not always be recognized in the Czech Republic. You might need to get the nostrification done. So if you can choose from the 82 unqualified ones, that's the simplest. After that, criminal record. Generally, you need to have a clean criminal record in the country of origin. But if you're an EU citizen, you don't need to have a physical criminal check. because the EU databases are all connected. So the Czech Trade License Office will see your records in Italy or the Netherlands or Germany, wherever. So you don't need a physical criminal check. The same applies to permanent residence holders, potentially blue card holders and family members of EU citizens, and students which have 23 in their residence permit or in their visa. But if you are in any other situation, so you're a student but you have the 24, or you're under family reunification, or you have any like a business visa, or you have an employee card, you always need a criminal check from the country of origin, and it must be apostilled or superlegalized and translated into Czech. Then generally 1,000 crowns admin fee, which might be modified, might be slightly less in some cases. It might be more if you're getting the concession, some of the qualified trades. So it depends, but generally for most cases it's 1,000 crowns. And then we can also take care of the trade license process completely on your behalf, so you don't need to go anywhere. Just like once or twice to our office tops, and no trade license office, no social security, healthcare, nothing like that. We just need to have a power of attorney for that, so we would just ask you to sign that. Now, when you have all the documents, there is time for step number 3, and that is submitting all the documents to the trade license office. Generally speaking, you always need to go there in person, because technically you could potentially submit it through a data box, but since you don't have the trade license, you very likely don't have a data box, so you cannot submit it via data box because you don't have the data box. So like doing it electronically is technically possible, or in theory possible, but for most people it doesn't work. But we, for example, can do that because we have a data box as a company, we have the power of attorney representing you, and we could potentially submit the documents via data box. We still don't usually do it because it has some disadvantages. So generally speaking, it's still best to go physically to the trade license office, submit all the documents. Given everything was fine, you gave them everything they needed, it was in the form, they needed that, and they spoke English, which none of these conditions must be really met depending on what trade license office you go to. But let's say everything worked out fine, you submit it and you wait. The trade license office usually issues the trade license in 3 to 5 business days. Can be shorter, can take longer, also depends on the trades you want to include, all that, but generally a week. And then you go there again in person and you collect the physical trade license, which is a piece of paper saying you can freelance in the Czech Republic. Yeah, freelance in the Czech Republic. And then now you might think, okay, that's all, I have the trade license, I can like do whatever I want to now. That's just the start. You got the trade license, great, you can start invoicing, you can start earning money, but there are still many steps you need to take. The step number 5 would be getting registered with all the authorities where you need to get registered. Basically for all people that would be the tax office, and for all people and all situations that would be the social security office. Healthcare only applies to some nationalities and some situations. So generally all EU citizens must get also registered with the public healthcare. All PR holders, permanent residence permit holders, must also get registered with the public healthcare, but that's kind of it. Then also Americans and like 6-7 other nationalities have to do that. But if you're an Indian, if you're Mexican, if you're Colombian, if you're Nigerian, if you're Vietnamese, whatever, you cannot contribute to the public healthcare system. So you only register with the social and with the tax office, not with the public healthcare one. The registrations might take different amount of time and might be differently complicated. Most of them are also easier to get submitted in person. The maximum time it should take officially is around 30 days. Usually the social security takes the longest, but if it takes longer, don't be surprised, but don't let it be for too long because you might start getting late payment fees, all that. So generally 30 days to get the Social Security, tax office, and healthcare sorted. After you get all the registrations, you should also create all the online accounts, which would be step number 6, because basically all of them, the Social Security has an online portal where you can go and check some things. It does not work perfectly. There are some delays and it changes. Like, you need to still know what are the rules behind it. Otherwise you can get incorrect information. But they have an online account where you can actually log in and see some details, which is great. Same goes for the public health insurance. At least the two companies we primarily work with, which is OZP, that's the best. They have something called a Vita Karta, where you can set up an account and log in. And VZP also has something similar called MyVZP, where you can also set up an account and see some of your health insurance details. For taxes, there is a portal as well, which is called Moje Daně, like My Taxes. And it also kind of works, but you really need to know what you're doing there, because there are some delays. It takes up to a week or something before the data synchronize, and depends on what kind of taxes you paid. If it's just the income tax or your VAT payer, you had to pay a tax for your property and stuff like that. So for the tax office, you really need to know what you're doing. The Social Security is both in Czech and English. Healthcare offices depends, but I think the tax office is only in Czech, and it's kind of like tax, so it's might be very confusing. So you need to know what to do there. But they have it as well, which is great, and that wasn't like that just 5 years ago. So that's a great progress. Step number 7 would be, in the trade license process, would be getting your data box set up. That kind of happens automatically, because when you get the trade license, the Ministry of the Interior automatically assigns a data box to you. If you don't know what data box is, it's kind of an electronic way of communicating with the government, which you should use primarily when you get the trade license. Kind of like an email situation. It just works a bit differently, but generally it's very similar to an email. And the kind of problem with the data box is that the Ministry of the Interior sends you a physical letter with the login details. So they usually send it to the place where you live. So you just need to make sure that you have a mailbox and your name is on the mailbox, and then you have a chance that the details will be delivered to you. Sometimes it still does not happen, but yeah, that's how it is. Then if you didn't receive it, or you haven't received it and it's been a month or something, that's a bit weird. So you can always go to a post office and get a new login details, or try to set up the data box. You just need to be careful with that, because it's a post office, first of all, so no one really speaks English or don't want to. Depends on the branch, but that would be the general setup. Second thing is that there are two types of the data box. One is for the trade license, which is a business data box, and one is a personal data box. And if you just go there and say, hey, I want a data box, even if they understand you and speak with you English and they are like willing to help, they might just get you the personal one, because you didn't specify that you wanted that for the trade license. And then it's kind of useless, because you should not use a personal data box for your trade license related things, and you should not use trade license related data box for your personal things. Because even though the trade license is personal, so it's just the same person basically in both cases, from the perspective of the law, there are two separate things. One is a personal thing, and the second is business. Even though you are the business, it's different. So it's not like interchangeable. You cannot use the personal data box for your trade license matters, and you cannot use the trade license data box for your personal matters. So you need to be careful with that, but you definitely should do that, because then you submit all your taxes and Social Security report, healthcare reports through the data box later on. So it's very important to do that properly. And number 8 in the trade license process is something that's been new from this year, and that's that you need to get registered for paying the TV and radio fees, which are mandatory for business, or the registration is mandatory. The fees will very likely not apply to you because you need to have, I don't know, there are some rules. You need to have at least 12 cars, or something like that. We've written an article about that as well. So if you go to the trade license article in the description, there is also a link to this article about the mandatory fees, the TV and radio fees, so you get all the details there. But in most cases, you will not end up paying anything to the TV or radio fees as a freelancer, but you have to get registered and declare that you don't have to pay anything, that you don't meet the conditions to be eligible or to have to pay. And then number 9 in the trade license process, that is more like specific to specific trades, because there might be some additional fees you might need to pay. For example, if you start an Airbnb business, you also need to get registered into landlord's online account where you report your guests to the foreign police. You will also need to pay the town or city tax. So there are some other registrations as well for different fields of businesses. There might be others, like you might need to get registered for the garbage disposal fees and all these kind of things. Plus, in some cases, there might be additional tax registrations, like for the VAT or the VAT Lite, the identified person. We're covering all this in the article I've linked into the description. So if you want to know more about these, go to the article. But guys, give us a couple more days to finish everything, because the article we've written is like as long, and that will have another like 10 sub-articles specific for each of the topics, like VAT and invoicing. You will be able to download invoice templates, all of these. So it will be like a huge hub of information, and we are still working on that, but by the end of this week it should be finished completely and you should have all the information there. Now it's already like a lot of information there, but there will be way more in just a couple days. So those were 9 steps. And of course, one thing, if you don't want to run to all the offices, if you just prefer not to, we'll be happy to get you the trade license. It's something we do probably the most often in Move to Prague. We do a lot of trade licenses every day, so we'll be happy to take care of yours as well. And that's been 9 steps you need to take if you want to get trade license in the Czech Republic. Let's see if we have questions about that topic here. If yes, I'll answer them now. If not, then I'll go to the joiners only section and I will do another live Q&A session there. So if you're not a joiner yet, not a subscriber, but if you're not a joiner, join now and we'll do the live Q&A's questions just for you there. But let's see the questions here. Desert Bird 1. What if your wife is not interested in you, but you cannot live without her? What should one do? Probably get the trade license and start your own business so you don't have to think about it. I have a work residence permit and Czech diploma, and I'm doing a second job at the restaurant, and they said that I can't work as I'm not eligible. Could you please advise me? So that's not related to the trade license. And Abdel Kadir, why is it so difficult to get an appointment with the embassy for the visa purpose of study in the Czech Republic? So that's not related to the trade license either. So thank you very much, guys, for being here today. If you think this is helpful, please share it, comment it, like it, you know the drill. Share it with your friends or someone you might that might need information about the trade license and that they would appreciate some clear information. Share the article in the description, and I'll see you again Thursday, Monday, until the end of the world, or in 2 minutes in the private Q&A session in the joiners area. See you guys. Good night.